Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we proudly present our spectacular show of podcast magic and imagination full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture. It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast with Jenn Dave and David Dollar.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dave.
It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast. And I know you're excited because today's topic is the Grand Floridian.
It is.
I mean, you've been smiling for an hour now. You're like, we're not going to
You've
even
been talking
mention
to
the
me for 5
All-Stars. Well, I mean, we just mentioned the All-Stars, but we don't have to talk about the All-Stars. We don't have to talk about off-property.
I don't even know what All-Stars
are. Right. It's a myth. It's just a myth. But first, Jen, before we get there, how did you Disney this week?
I am Disneying currently by wearing my, there it is. There it is.
Oh,
it's my Spirit jersey.
Spirit jersey.
It's my Spirit jersey.
Oh, the flower, is that a Grand Floridian Spirit jersey? Or
it
just
is
a springtime?
not. It's just a springtime Spirit jersey, but
Okay.
I enjoyed it. And I was cold and I forgot my sweatshirt one day in my January trip and I was cold. And I was like, guess I'm buying
That's happened
jersey.
to us. That has happened to us. I think it was 2 years ago. We didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't pack any cooler clothing, cool type clothing, and for cool weather. And it was a cold snap in March at Disney World.
Happens.
And so we ended up spending $200 on a sweatshirt and like jogging pants for the kid and just like a bunch of clothes that we didn't really need to buy, but we were like all freezing. And
but if you're freezing, like you're not going to enjoy yourself.
When you're at Disney World and you're freezing, it's the most miserable experience because you now know I'm going to spend $60 on a sweatshirt that I didn't want to buy, but now I have to buy it because I'm freezing. And
you see, now I
yeah,
did walk around until I found one that I wanted to buy. I was like, no,
Right.
I like this one. Like I'm not just buying one. So
yeah, I have my one of my favorite hoodies is a Goofy hoodie. It's got Goofy written on the front with big Goofy on the back. And I bought it for like $65 a couple of years ago because for whatever reason it was freezing, and I'm like, I didn't pack a pair of pants and all my shirts are short sleeve, and now I have to go buy a sweatshirt. It was nice and it was so warm and cuddly. I loved it. So it was great. So I am packing for my trip. We're getting ready, and here's the trick as an autism dad. Now, I can't speak for all autistic kids because when you met one kid with autism, you've met one kid with autism. But here's my kid. When he knows we're going to Disney World, he doesn't sleep. He literally does not sleep the night before. And this has happened twice to us where he was up all night the night before, which basically means we get an hour or two of sleep because when he's up, he gets up, walks around the house, whatever. We have to kind of be down there at least with him, kind of keep an eye on him, you know? And so one of us has to be up. So he goes on the couch and like we take in turns. It's miserable. So what we've done is we've started writing on the calendar the wrong day. So right now on our calendar, it says Friday, airplane, Southwest, Disney World, because he goes on an airplane. We're flying Southwest. We're going to Disney World. But he's already seen the piles of clothes that are starting to get stacked up. And
do you think he's going to start to figure you out?
Oh, he's already figured it out. And I think he's kind of confused as to whether the calendar says Friday, but mommy and daddy are getting stuff ready. Like we're leaving. And so we're just like, hey, we're getting stuff ready. So, we're leaving on Friday. We're leaving in a few days. Because all we wanted to do is sleep tonight. That's all we wanted to do is sleep tonight. We're not even getting up early. I mean, we have to leave the house at 8:30 tomorrow to catch a flight like 10 or 10:15, which is fine. We've done it before. We've had a flight like 5 a.m. We'll never do that again. And it's just, and we've had it before. We had a flight like 5 p.m., which is harder too because we get down there and we go do a rental car. We're taking it to a doctor that we see down there in Melbourne, Florida. So we get the rental car and just whatever. So we're kind of timing it out right. It's just we got to get him home. We got to get him sleeping. We're trying to hide things around the house. Like he takes supplements in the day. So this morning for breakfast, he went and grabbed a Ziploc bag and grabbed his bag of supplements to put him in the Ziploc bag because he knew that's how we're taking them with us. We put him in a Ziploc bag. I'm like, no, don't do that. No. Because I have already got his supplements in another bag off to the side. So what he's on the counter, that's for later. And I'm like, So it's been fun. It's been good times. Great.
Oh, he's gonna.
So, all right,
so
real quick
excited,
before we get to any news, Jenna, how's the moving process? The house, you guys are closing soon. I know Heather, quasi producer Heather, is on her way to Florida pretty much as we speak. The moving dads are
like
going
as
down
of
there.
when you're hearing the show, she's
going to be moved in, and then like the next week or so. I mean, she'll be a permanent Floridian, and so excited for quasi producer Heather. Jen, your house update is the Amish finished? Are they still tweaking the electrical stuff?
And just a few last minute little tweaky updates that they're doing. Our final walkthrough is actually, if you are listening to this episode the day it drops, it is today. I am probably walking through the house right now. And then our closing date is Monday, later in the day on Monday. So That is so I will take all the
That's
goodbyes
exciting.
as we get through this done. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
So this is a transition house, and you'll just build another house later and move later
That is
again,
it.
right?
Absolutely no. Absolutely not. This is it. I am never going through this again.
Yeah. Well, I
Never.
mean, and you and Brady are really relatively young. You especially is on the young side of life, and so it's almost like this is the time that you're going to have a house and spend the next 40 years in it. I mean, this is your home. This is the one.
It.
This
This
is
is
forever
it.
home.
But this is why we built it this way.
Right.
This is
And
why
which
it's been
makes
such a
sense.
process. But
Which
that's
makes
okay
sense.
because we will never do it again.
That's really cool. That's exciting, and I'm really excited for you guys.
Thank
I'm excited about that. Of course, we're
you.
having a retreat. All the agents are coming into Pittsburgh, so we get to see the home in June, which is exciting. I've never been to Pittsburgh. I've only been to Philadelphia. When I ran the Rocky Steps as we were driving through town, and so because that's what you have to do when you go to Philadelphia, so that's exciting. But I'm excited for you guys. I think this is great, which leads us to a little bit of news. We're going to kick it off over at Disneyland. Just some quick hits. First of all, Hyperspace Mountain is returning to Space Mountain in Disneyland, which is exciting. That's celebrating Star Wars month because, of course, Disneyland gets all the cool stuff. And so they're going to be celebrating Star Wars. And, of course, the May of 4th be with you. That's coming from May 1st to June 4th. Hyperspace Mountain, you get in there and there's all kinds of Star Wars effects. And it's really cool. They has the one thing about Space Mountain over there is there are sounds coming from your car, like you have speakers in the car.
Yeah.
So it's not as if like when they play music at Disney World, you hear music. It's all like it's passing as you go and you're zipping through it. But here it's consistent because it's in the car at Disneyland.
It's like Rock and Roller Coaster at World, where it stays with you.
Exactly. And so there'll be Star Wars stuff going on, and laser firing all around you and everything. And it's a really cool effect. And I'm really excited about this.
It really is.
And I like the fact that it's a permanent thing. Oh, not permanent, but it's a set time. It's like May 1st, July 4th. That's it. That's all. Come get it if you can. If not, we go back to regular Space Mountain. So it's not any wondering of, is it going to be there forever? Do we get it? I don't know. So that's cool. Also opening up is the Mickey's ToonTown. They reimagined ToonTown. It's the Centennial Park, which is right there at the entrance of the new land with different play experiences. And we'll give a quick rundown of what to expect when you go out there. I know Kyla is headed there in a week and a half, which is exciting. The Goofy's How to Play Yard has a whimsical sound garden where kids will discover ways to make wacky sounds as well as enjoy an all-new elevated clubhouse. Goofy's House will have weird and wonderful interactive candy-making machines. Donald's Duck Pond will be a splash pad there where you can meet Huey, Dewey, Louie, and Webby. Chippendale's Gadget Coaster. This is the Inspector Gadget Coaster. It's been rethemed to Chippendale. It's like almost like a barnstormer. It's a very short ride. It's a lot of fun though. It's real quick, kind of zips through there. So if you have smaller children you're not sure about the roller coasters, this is the one to try them on to see if they like it. Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin will also be returning. Mickey and Minnie's House, they've had house facelifts. Their house are returning, and so they'll be refurbed there. You can purchase food and beverages at the Good Boy Grocers. It'll be like a road stand offering grab-and-go drinks. And the Cafe Disney, it's a sidewalk table eatery serving dino classics. None other than Daisy herself will be there serving up. The 100 Years of Wonder celebration kicked off in January 27th. Of course, that is when Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway also open, and you will find that in ToonTown. And I'm excited about going back to Disneyland. Probably, hopefully, the next year or so. I'd like to try to get there every couple of years, or maybe if we'll have an agency retreat out there, Jen. Get on it. Come on. Got to get to it. There's that. And zipping over to Walt Disney World, Tron has started the soft openings, which we were hoping this would happen. Of course, me going down there, I was lamenting the fact that it's opening for good on April 3rd. I was leaving on the 29th. I'm like 2 days later, 4 days later. But now they are in soft openings, which I think Disney's like, okay, this ride is ready. Let's go ahead and get some people on it. It is like Guardians of the Galaxy. There is no standby line. Please hear me, folks. Please.
Yes. Do not. You cannot just get in line.
Don't just walk and where's the line? 7 a.m. on the dot. You have got to get on and get your virtual queue. That's your first thing, virtual queue. Second thing, if you want to purchase individual Lightning Lane attractions, which means you pay for it. I think it's like $20 is how much it's been so far this week. $20 per person. That basically purchases you the quick access. Also know that if you get into the virtual queue, and I think people are finding this out with Guardians, get into the virtual queue. That's the standby line, basically.
That is the standby line.
So if it's a 3-hour wait, that means you're in line for 3 hours. But you're in line. And so,
but the whole reason for virtual queue is they're avoiding the 3-hour wait, but it's not going to be like a 10-minute wait.
Right. And actually, and I say 3 hours, it's not going to be 3 hours. It might be 90 minutes or so. It might be something like that. But they have boarding queues, boarding times to come back. And the reason I said that about 3 hours is somebody posted a picture that said the 365-minute wait time, which basically means that's your boarding wait time. It's you're having to wait for your boarding times later. It's just
Yeah.
boarding times are backed up. Tron's gonna be the same way. It's gonna be the virtual queue. It's gonna be the longer line.
Mhm.
You can purchase the access, get into the lightning lane line. If you have the disability pass, the way to do that obviously is if you get into the virtual queue, you're like, well, the reason I have a disability pass is so I don't have to wait an hour and a half. You don't. You go talk to the cast member, say, hey,
Mhm.
we got into the virtual queue. We have the disability pass. They will put you in the lightning lane line, right?
Yes.
Just like that.
No problem.
Don't do it unless you have a virtual queue, though. You can't just walk up and be like, hey, we have the
Correct.
DAS pass. Can we ride? You can't unless you have a virtual queue. So just know that has to happen. So there's your
Yes.
little rundown there. Soft openings for Tron. It's exciting. People are loving the ride. I'm excited about it. I still think Guardians is going to be more popular. I think that give it 3
In the
months. I think
long
that'll
run.
still be the hardest one to get. But I'm excited for Tron, and
Well,
I don't
and I think part
anticipate
of that is
doing
just
a standby
because
for a while.
Guardians is a longer ride.
It is a
I
longer
mean,
coaster,
it
right.
is a longer
Right.
coaster
and a
than
more intense coaster as well.
it
You
is.
know.
Although I think Tron is, not that I've ridden it yet, is going to be thrilling and
Oh
wonderful.
yeah, I'm excited
and
about that too.
and I
Yeah.
think it's great. I'm excited about it. But I do think that in the grand scheme, it probably will not end up in as high demand as Guardians.
Yeah. Also, and that's not to slight Tron at all, because I'm excited about
No,
riding
I
it.
think it's
We're
gonna
going to
be
be, my wife Steph and I are both going to be on our phones, and she's going to be trying to get virtual queue, and I'll try to be at Lightning Lane. If we ride it twice, great. If we ride it once, great. I've got my
Yeah.
Tron shirt ready to go, but I'm not going to wear it unless I know we have a boarding group or virtual time.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold that shirt if I have to. Finally, Genie Plus. If you purchase Genie Plus, you get your ride photos for free, which is exciting. It's a part of Memory
Yes.
Maker. If you have Memory Maker, you already get your ride photos, and those are the ride photos that come from Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which is sometimes a video. Tower of Terror is sometimes a video. Photos on Buzz Lightyear, but photos on Rock and Roller Coaster. All those photos have been included in Memory Maker. Well, now, not saying you shouldn't buy Memory Maker, but if you don't buy Memory Maker and you only buy Genie Plus, you get the ride photos included, which is really exciting. That's a really cool perk. I think that's a really little small something they
That's
could
that
easily
added
do.
value we were talking about last week.
Added value, exactly. We love added value. So not a lot of news, just a few things to run through here real quick. One thing I do want to talk about just before you kind of get to the big Grand Flo discussion. Jen, one of the things that you and I as travel planners, and of course you're the owner of Upon a Star Travel and Concierge, one of the things I think we're both running into, especially at spring break, is people, number one, not planning ahead for their trips. And I get it. Sometimes you're like, last minute trip, let's just go and see what happens. But number two, when you get that trip booked or when you have a trip booked, not planning ahead for that trip itself. In terms of, we've had multiple people ask us previously, Christmas week, it's a busy Christmas week because I figure everybody will stay home. No, it's the
Definitely
busiest
not.
week of the year. Spring break, we figure mid-time spring break, middle of the week will be fine. Well, we won't go to the weekends, we'll go to the middle of the week. No, it's still really busy. You have to have park reservations, and these park reservations are selling out several days ahead of time because it's so busy. The Tron opening on April the 3rd, when events like this happen, it's already sold out for Magic Kingdom. April the 4th. I said 3rd, 4th. April the 4th. It's already sold out for Magic Kingdom. So if you want to go to Magic Kingdom that day, you can't get in. And so it's you have to have. We want you to call travel planners, whether it's us or anybody else. Please pick us. We want you to, because this is our jobs. This is our help you. But the days of just waking up one day while you're on vacation in Tampa, Florida, and saying, you know what, guys, let's go to Disney World. Those days are gone.
They are gone.
Those days are gone.
And I understand it because I've actually had clients this week, in fact, asking, well, we want to go such and such, but we don't want it to be a total rain out. We really just want to wait. Can't we purchase tickets day of to make sure it's good weather? No. And I'm not saying that to be rude, but no, you probably can't because
there are times of the year where you might be able to, and because you walk up in the ticket window, a lot of times it's really busy. Not spring break, but let's just say mid-September. You wake up one morning, let's go to the Magic Kingdom and purchase a ticket. It's available. You can do, but you still have to have a park reservation, which means you still have to go in your app, even though you just bought a ticket. You have to do your park reservation on there to get in.
You need to make sure that park reservation is available. Actually,
exactly.
for a one-day ticket, they are now including that because you have to pick your park when you buy.
Yes, well, there you go. Also, you unless you know how to plan, you would have had to get Genie Plus before 7 a.m. So it's not like you wake up at 7 going, park opens at 9. Let's get over there by 8:30. No, it's just plan ahead, folks. Plan ahead. I would love
want you to have the best experience.
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's what the point is. It's like you can have an okay experience if you try to wing it. Right. But if you put a little bit of forethought into it, even though I understand that there are some people who just like to be spontaneous, and I get it. It's just this is no longer the sort of vacation where you
Right.
can be
Six Flags, you can do it that way. Go to Six
100%.
Flags. Go
to
stand in
Kennywood if you're
line,
from
buy a
Pittsburgh.
ticket,
You can
go in.
totally just
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. But and if you're a special needs parent like myself, it's something you have to go in and plan for that as well. It only takes a few extra minutes to do, but you have to plan for that. There's a lot of things with Disney World, and even kind of universal at this point too. There are things you have to plan ahead for. So I just urge you folks out there, don't just walk into a Disney World trip thinking it's easy, I got this, nobody's going to be there, or we'll just show up. And
even if you're like, well, I did this a couple years ago, remember things are totally different.
It's different. Because then what happens is you become that person who stands in line because you didn't have a plan, and you get grumpy, and the whole day goes by and you're like, we did 4 things and we were in line all day, I'm never going back. Well, you're never going back because that's your fault. It's not Disney's fault. That's your fault. That's entirely your fault. Don't punish your children and your rest of your family because you didn't make a plan and you got mad at somebody else. So.
Or if you want to be then just go in with the right mindset, because there's nothing wrong with that. There are days where Brady and I do not plan very much. Like, we know we're going to a park. Of course, we get the park reservation because, we do.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
We are okay if we just ride the people mover, or if we just walk around and we just want to look at the shops. We just want to walk up and down Main Street, but we're okay with that because we go enough. But if this is like your big one and done,
this is why this podcast works, because you and I have such different styles. We are rope droppers. I want to be there 30 minutes or 45 minutes before the gate opens because I want to get in, because I want to be able to knock off an attraction immediately without having to get a Genie Plus for it or a Lightning Lane for it, even a Dash Pass for it. I want to go straight to attraction. Flight of Passage is the perfect example for that, because you don't have to get any of those things. You just show up 30, 45 minutes ahead of time. Follow the crowd. You're going to be on and off that ride in the first hour of your day, and it's done. Everything else is going to be busy, but Flight of Passage you can knock out like that if you don't want to purchase it. But you and I tour differently, because you'll show up lunchtime, maybe stop by Know My Lounge or grab a bite to eat at Flame Tree or something like that. If you haven't eaten at Grand Floridian or wherever you are, All-Star Food Court, the End Zone Food Court at All-Star Sports.
Yeah, I definitely don't know what that is.
That's a myth. And you'll show up, and probably you will have, if you really want to do Flight of Passage, you guys will have already done Genie for it. Early on, you woke up for like 5 minutes going, my phone. Okay, about to sleep. And so that's how we plan differently, which is cool. So let's talk about the crown jewel of the Disney resorts, and that is the Grand Floridian. This is your favorite resort. Now, we're going to talk the history of Grand Floridian, because it's got a fascinating history of how it came to be, what it was supposed to be, and what it is now. But I want to ask you, before we dive into the details of Grand Floridian, Jenn, just an overview, why do you love the Grand Flo so much over other resorts like Saratoga or Contemporary or even Riviera? Why does the Grand Flo just speak to you?
I mean, I think it, some of it goes back to my history with the Grand Floridian. So I remember as a kid, with my family, we were vacationing in Walt Disney World, and we must have been riding the monorail. We must have been. But I remember from the, regardless, from the monorail station, seeing the Grand Floridian and just, hearing about it on the monorail, was talking about their flagship resort, the Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, and blah, 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 blah. And in my head, thinking like, I really want to stay there one day. And I think I said something to my mom, and she's like, oh yeah, well, we would too, because
of course,
they're on an expensive trip. And so that just kind of planted it in my head. Never had stayed there until actually our honeymoon. And this was, again, a place where Brady always wanted to stay. So this was the splurge. This, again, crown jewel, honeymoon. This is what he really wanted to do for us. And so it holds a special place in my heart, because I remember always wanting to stay there and then actually getting to stay there on my honeymoon. And it was everything I dreamed it would be and more. But I love the convenience. I love the restaurants. And I just love the flavor, because I know we're going to talk about, it is sort of that 1920s vibe, and I love that era. And, so even as much as you've got the piano player, they used to have the jazz band. I do miss the jazz band, by the way. They were amazing, but I love listening to the live music. I just love everything about the whole vibe. So yeah.
Well, and the soundtrack to this particular episode is going to be the Grand Floridian background music, because Jenn, you can't hear it yet, but in the background of this episode, you will be hearing the Grand Floridian background music, the piano tunes and the jazz singles and things like that. And, it's really the only place on property you're going to hear the song Making Whoopee sung from a piano player, but who needs another season for singing Making Whoopee? So going back all the way back to the beginning, 1967, whenever they were looking at building the Florida project, or Walt Disney World as it was to be known, Walt had a couple of things in mind. Of course, he had the whole Magic Kingdom. We got that. He wanted 5 luxury resort hotels. The first ones were the Contemporary and the Polynesian. That was it. So we get 2 to begin with, and then we would build a third, then a fourth, and a fifth based on demand, because we weren't going to build 5 and then not have them all stand empty. So let's build 2, and as the park gets busier and busier, we'll build a third one, then a fourth one. And he wanted an Asian, a Venetian, and a Persian themed resort. So the third one,
ostensibly with restaurants. I mean,
right. So the demand had started to build over the next several years. And Walt was like, well, for this third resort, let's build a Polynesian, a Contemporary. Well, we got a Polynesian Contemporary. Let's make it Persia, Asia, or Venice. This is what we want. Let's pick one of these. So they were going to put the Persian themed restaurant north of the Contemporary Hotel, kind of east of Tomorrowland. So in that little nook there, that corner where you're looking at Space Mountain and Contemporary is on your right side, in that corner.
Okay.
The Venetian themed restaurant would be located between the TTC and the Contemporary. So when you go to the Contemporary to the TTC, there would be another resort right there. The Asian themed restaurant was to be built between Polynesian and the Magic Kingdom. So you know where that went. So this Asian resort was this master plan for Walt Disney World. During the construction, they were so sure they were going to build this. They set aside this square-shaped plot of land right there by Seven Seas Lagoon, which is where, of course, we have Grand Floridian. And it was inspired by Thailand. It was going to have these furnishings and decor. It's going to be a 600-room resort with these large square main buildings with buildings off to the side, again, much like a resort we see now. They had like elevated drawings, and they had just the construction ready to go, the blueprints, but it never moved forward because in 1973 there was an oil crisis, much like 9/11 put back so many things and canceled so many things. Walt Disney World in 2001, 1973 did the same thing. Early 70s, a tough time in the country with the economy and everything. Tourism to Orlando was down, so they're like, well, we're not going to build a hotel right now because it's just not there. Also, lack of time, lack of money. They had just bought out U.S. Steel to help build some other projects, and so they were like, we can't just go splurging money on a brand new hotel. They had the monorail built and everything, and the monorail was going past this big empty plot of land. So in 1984, Michael Eisner took over. So he basically looked. Now, he's given credit for a lot of things that the Grand Flo has, but things were starting to move along already. There was a guy named Alan Lapidus, and he's a renowned architect. He was working on the Mediterranean Resort and Village for Disney World, working on that whole theme. And he noticed the Imagineers were designing the Grand Floridian. Well, they loved the Grand Floridian design so much, they delayed the Mediterranean Resort. Once the Grand Flo got up and running, they just canceled the Mediterranean Resort. And they were like, this is the crown jewel. We're not going to get any better than this. Matter of fact, they had actually named the main road down to the car care center Asian Way. In 1986, it was renamed Floridian Way because the Asian, Mediterranean, that whole thing was finally just canceled completely. Done. Because what they originally wanted, they wanted the hotels to kind of complement the Magic Kingdom. Like the Contemporary kind of complements Tomorrowland, the Polynesian kind of goes to the Adventureland, the Asian resort would have kind of complemented back Magic Kingdom as well. Well, now it's kind of the Main Street USA, the train station is kind of the Floridian backdrop. It's kind of the theming there. So we had an architecture company called Wimberley, Wizenand, Allison Tong, and Goo, or WWATG, now just called WATG, or I will call it WATG for short. They're the ones working on the Grand Floridian. They visited hotels all over the country. They bought books on Venetian architecture, Victorian architecture. They went to San Francisco, and the web did not exist back then, so they couldn't look these things up. So they actually had to go across the country and even around the world to look at these buildings. People look at the Grand Floridian, they figure it looks like the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, but they also pulled from the Washington Resort in New Hampshire, the Grand Hotel in Mackinac Island in Michigan, the Bellevue Biltmore in Clearwater, Florida, Victorian houses in San Francisco. So they pulled from everything to get this done. So the backstory is that the Grand Floridian has bright white towers and gabled roofs that echo the Victorian architecture influence that's come to symbolize Florida's carefree winters and balmy summer nights. The Grand Floridian was going to reflect the era of railroad magnates who built the new rail routes to Florida with a large, grand hotel at the end of the line. So 40 acres, which was going to be an Asian resort, now prepped for this. Now they had to deal with the swamp and the soil and blah 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 because it's built in a swamp. Plus, the monorail was a challenge because the Wilderness Lodge and the Grand Floridian both have themes that aren't really monorail-y, I guess, which is why the monorail never really ran through Wilderness Lodge because it was such a jarring thing of like fancy monorail, futuristic train, old rustic Wilderness Lodge. They didn't marry the two. However, with Grand Floridian, they couldn't hide it. Wilderness Lodge is set back a little
Yeah.
bit, so you don't have to see it. They couldn't do that with Grand Floridian because there was a building there. They had to have the monorail stop. So they basically had to reposition the monorail. They made they swapped them out. They made the monorail cars bigger. They had to redo the track. They had to do some of the platform leveling and everything to you kind of break it out there. So they got it built. They got it done. I mean, the details, of course, are just gorgeous. The Victorian design. They selected, this is minutia really, they selected lighter colors and focused on animal subjects, giving the lobby and guest room interiors a more playful look. The prominent colors the design team chose to focus on were terracotta, dark peach, mossy green, mint green. I am speaking Jen's language. She's like, please give me more. This is amazing. I love this.
Well, it's all the colors that were popular.
Little great tidbit here though is the designers are concerned that when you're on the come off the monorail, you enter the building, the main building, you're on the second floor. So you walk to this grand atrium, and it's like a little disorienting because you're like, why am I on the second floor? To resolve that issue, they had landmarks built in, like the cage-like elevator, a Chinese-style bird cage, a grand staircase, and unifying elements to kind of bring these colors together. So your eyes and mind weren't just blown by like this massive room. It was kind of this big flow of thing. They have, the chandeliers in the lobby. They're 16 feet high. They hang 40 feet above the lobby. They weigh a ton each. Opened on June 28th, 1988, 34 years ago, almost 35 years ago. Do you know the two people who did the cut the ribbon with Michael Eisner and Frank Wells? Do you know the celebrities that were there?
Oh, I did know. At one point I knew this. Whether or
This
not
is one
I
of the
can
things that if people didn't know, they would never guess. Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson were there to cut the ribbon.
I did know that because I've seen pictures, but I
would have never gotten that in a million years. I'd be like,
I mean, if I hadn't seen it before, then I would have been like, what?
Yep.
Random.
So in 1989, the Grand Floridian Beach Resort, which is what it was called initially, received its first AAA 4-diamond award rating. Yeah. It's maintained that rating for 28 years. Victoria and Albert's has been a AAA 5-diamond award-winning restaurant for 17 years in a row.
Yep.
Forbes, a 4-diamond award winner. The Grand Floridian has gotten designation in the Florida Green Lodging Program. Of course, at Grand Floridian, and we'll talk about some of this in just a second, but you're going to find Citrico's, Narcoossee's, 1900 Park Fair, although it's not open yet.
It's not open right now,
reopened yet. The Grand Floridian Cafe, Gasparilla Island Grill, the Beaches Pool Bar and Grill, the Courtyard Pool Bar. They renamed it in 1997 to the Grand Floridian Resort and Spa. In 2011, a DVC board met at the Contemporary Hotel and announced the expansion of the Grand Flo to include a 147-room DVC property. So you got several buildings. The main building, and Jen can cross all these off because I'm sure she stated every single room in every building. The Sago Cay, the Sugarloaf, Conch Key, Boca Chica, and Big Pine Key. And finally, just for the details, 867 rooms, 25 suites, including the Victorian Suite, the Roy O. Disney Suite, the Walt Disney Suite, and the Grand Suite. Again, I'm sure these are all rooms. You're like, yeah, well, I had some time to kill, so I stayed at the Walt Disney Suite. Whatever. Have you ever been in any of those suites, or have you stayed in any of the suites?
I have not stayed in any of the suites, actually. I have been into the main lodge. Is there a guest room
in your new home that's going to be themed to Grand Floridian, like the Grand Floridian Walt Disney Suite? Because if not, you're doing it wrong.
No, I mean, I guess I am doing that wrong. I don't, but we do love the Grand very, 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 very much. So.
Restaurants, of course, the big ones are Citrico's and Narcoossee's. And Narcoossee's is the one is that the one that sits there on the water on the dock?
Victoria and Albert's.
Well, we'll get there. There.
Narcoossee's is the one that sits on the dock.
Okay, it sits on the dock. You basically pull up and with the ferry boat there, going from Magic Kingdom and back.
It will be reopening soon. It's reopening, I think, at the end of the month because it was closed. They were redoing the inside.
What are the differences in two food style wise? Like what kind of food are you getting at both, or is it both kind of similar?
No, I wouldn't say similar. They are both upscale. They're both deluxe. Okay,
right.
The dining plan, deluxe dining plan, right? Both would have been 2 credits. You mean 2
credits per person?
Yes, those are both 2 credits.
Signature dining.
No signature. No, Narcoossee's a bit more like steak and seafood, so surf and turf. Whereas Citrico's, I guess, with the new menu, I'd call it a bit more of a Mediterranean flair, maybe. Like you can still get seafood up there. You can still get a steak up there, but I would say the styles of cooking are different. A lot more, I want to say like some more even like Spanish inspired with that with the dishes in Citrico's also. But again, like I said, also some Italian inspiration. So that's why I kind of went with Mediterranean, kind of like fresh cooking versus the more traditional surf and turf seafood restaurant. So I would say a little heavier on the seafood, but I really love both of them. They're so good. Narcoossee's for a while also did have a brunch. Do not know if that is going to come back, but it was a lovely brunch when they had it. So I hope.
Brady comes to you and says, Jen, we have time for one dining experience at 6 p.m. on our final night. You get to pick one. Citrico's and Narcoossee's. They both have one, 6 p.m. availability for both. Which one are you picking? Which one are you choosing?
I'll probably pick Narcoossee's.
Okay. All right. I've been to both. I like both, but they're a little too rich for my blood. Just because I'm a little more All-Starry than you are, obviously. I will say my speed is the Grand Floridian Cafe, and that's going to be more of your.
It's good.
It reminds me kind of the Plaza at Magic Kingdom. It's your soups, your salads, your sandwiches, your things like that. I've had several meals there. I think I've had breakfast there before. I don't. Even know if they do
breakfast is really good.
But the breakfast there was really, really good.
It's very good.
The Gasparilla Island Grill is great because I like the layout of it because they basically your sandwiches and stuff. It's like your counter service. You can go grab some food from there real quick, which is nice. Grand Floridian Cafe, back to that, is typically one that's available a lot of times. So if you can't find something to eat and you're in this area, it's worth eating, worth trying out.
Oh, it's very good.
Also the Enchanted Rose is there. Now, Jen, tell us a little bit about what is exactly is the Enchanted Rose?
So the Enchanted Rose is, I mean, for lack of a better word, it's their bar. It's their cocktail lounge. Now it used to be called Misner's, and it was very small. So there used to be if you're at the Grand Floridian, right around the corner from Citrico's, that whole back location was Misner's. And then there was a shop. They moved the shop, I say downstairs, and then they expanded the Misner's into the shop space and created the Enchanted Rose, which if you've been to the Enchanted Rose, you will know there are actually two rooms. There is the main room on the right. I call it the main one because that's where the bar is. There's also a side little area, and you can walk out onto the patio, like balcony thing. And that used to be like a sitting area as well as the store. And then where Misner's is it's like the theme is darker. It's more like candle lit room. And that's where you can see a lot of Beauty and the Beast touches. But the Enchanted Rose in general has all of the Beauty and the Beast touches. Absolutely gorgeous. And they have, I would say, heavy hors d'oeuvres as well.
Yes, so it's
good
food. It's
really good food. The menu, I mean, it's not an extensive menu, but the menu items are really, really good. So especially like for a late night snack.
The fries are good.
The fries are fabulous. Yes. And the crab mac and cheese is like,
And the drinks are good. And so it's a good little place to go sit and relax, especially it was the place that we all went after the 50th on October 1st, 2021. The 50th anniversary day was over. We were all exhausted. We went to the Enchanted Rose and just sat and had drinks and had snacks and just kind of chilled. It was like 4 or 5 of us and just kind of chilling out, which was great. Which was fantastic. It was great. So that is there. It's basically your last stop before Magic Kingdom on the monorail. And our family will take an afternoon either on a Magic Kingdom day, or sometimes we'll do it like tomorrow. We might do it tomorrow evening before we go to Disney Springs, hit the monorail and hit all 3 resorts.
Oh yeah.
Get off temporary, look at the shops. Same thing with Polynesian. And we love the Grand Floridian because you walk in to the right, there's a great little shop there. It's a little gift shop, your toys and your pens and your shirts and basic stuff like that. More of a, I don't want to say a kid's shop, but it's like family stuff all the way through.
Yeah,
mostly family.
Exactly.
To your left, of course, is your basin, which is your bath stuff and your bath bubblies,
bath
and
bombs,
blah, blah, blah,
and
stuff I could care less
scrubs.
about. So that's all there.
Smells delicious.
You want to make sense, you go in there. There is a couple of stores, and I can't think the name of them, but a couple of stores on the bottom on the first floor there over in the corner, and that's going to be more of your higher end shirts and clothing. That's where I found the $1,000 Mickey ears that are diamond studded and stuff. And and I sent a picture to you. I'm like, you want me to get these for you? You're gonna have to PayPal me right now. And they're like, no, I think I'm good. I'm good.
No, but that's where you can find like Tommy Bahama, Lily Pulitzer. They'll have like some of the Doonies and if some of the other purses, Kate Spade.
How you're not in a value versus a deluxe for many reasons, obviously, but the value has like one food court and one gift shop, and that's where you can find your Band-Aids and your toothpaste and your toothbrush and your shaving cream over here in the corner, but also your pins and your lanyards and your sweatshirts and your higher end shirts, all in one place. Everything's pop. You walk in, it's all right there. Go straight to the food court. At Grand Floridian, you've got like 4 places to sit down and eat for table service. You've got a bar. You've got a couple bars, actually. You got a higher end store down here. You got a family store up there. And then you got like a sundry store over here to the left as you're walking through the lobby, which is great. Grand Floridian is also probably my favorite place to go for the holidays, for Christmas time, because they've got the life-size gingerbread house, which to people, when people who don't know, who've never seen it, hear that, they're like, oh, well, that's cool. It's like, you don't understand. There is like a 12-foot tall gingerbread house.
Yeah.
There's a wood frame to it, but other than that, everything else on that thing is gingerbread and sugar. And like, it's all edible food. Don't eat the house. You can't, because it's probably been lacquered so it doesn't fall apart.
Yeah, don't.
But
eat
it's
it.
all made out of edible items,
Yes.
and it's amazing because people are inside selling gingerbread and selling cake pops and selling cookies.
They
and
are.
It's just, and you walk into that Grand Flo, and just the scent hits you, and it's like, oh, it smells like Christmas. It smells like Christmas. And it's so
like Christmas time at the Grand. I love walking in and smelling that, but then also seeing the gorgeous Christmas trees.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
the holiday, in any holiday like Easter Sunday or Easter decorations, there they have the Easter eggs that are there.
Yeah.
And a couple of dozen incredible chocolate Easter eggs that are real chocolate.
Absolutely.
And I read an article recently on how they have to maintain the temperature to a very specific degree in that lobby because it's chocolate. And there's a 6-foot tall Kevin bird from Up Easter egg in there, made all of chocolate, and I can't wait to see it. I'm excited about seeing that. I'll send you some pictures. Although you'll be there in a couple weeks, I'm sure. So yeah, I'm just really excited about being down there, and I love seeing the Grand Floridian. I know I make fun of it because I make fun of Jenn, because that's what I do. I don't dislike the Grand Floridian at all. It's one of those places that, for me, staying there, I would rather stay at other places for that price per room, but I don't besmirch anybody for staying there. Like, I would stay at I love Saratoga Springs and I love Riviera, and I want to stay at the Riviera. But somebody like yourself might be like, you know what? If I got that, then I'm going to stay at the Grand Floridian because I love the Grand Flo.
I do love Riviera as well. And Brady,
I've never stayed there. I'm looking forward to it.
I just don't have the history with the Riviera because it's a newer resort.
And that makes total sense.
But whenever we stayed there last time, Brady really enjoyed that. So I think that's one that's going to be more in our rotation as we're able to book it, just because we do enjoy that one as well, just for different reasons. We love Europe, and it has that more European flavor, which I'm sure we'll talk about eventually. But
of course.
Yeah.
And of course, they've got several pools there. They've got the wedding pavilion that's there. So you can get married there. And like a lot of resorts, they have the movies on the quad and things like that. And just, it's a beautiful resort. If you've never been there and if you don't intend on staying there, that's okay too. I would say go visit, go check it out.
Totally.
I always encourage people to take an hour, hit the monorail, get off on those resorts, look around. And for me, it's especially with our kid, it's a great place to kind of relax a little bit. He'll run around the lobby a little bit. He'll pop in the chairs. He likes the elevator, goes up and down, and mother-in-law will go kind of sit in the chair. She's like, I'll just sit here for a few minutes and y'all do your thing. Stephanie might do the same thing. Or I'll go do a little shopping and I'll watch the kids who kind of walk around, and it's beautiful grounds. It's just, it's a gorgeous resort. It's a beautiful resort.
It is.
So that is your history of the Grand Floridian, and that's what it looks like. And of course, if you want to stay there, you're thinking, you know what, I wouldn't mind staying there for a night. And I've had clients do that before. They've stayed at Pop and then tell me, we want one night at the Grand Flo because we want one night at a deluxe resort like this. I've had clients that will stay at value resorts. I had a client that stayed at a Pop Century for 4 to 5 nights for their 10th wedding anniversary. And she's like, but we want one night at Grand Flo. We want one night to kind of blow it out. Let's stay there. And that was actually on their anniversary. They had dinner there. And they just had the best time. She's like, we saved the money by staying at Pop. So we were able to stay at Grand Flo in a nicer, not just a standard, but like a theme park view. We had dinner at Narcoossee's or Citrico's or one of the places and just had a great time. And so people can do that all the time. So there's nothing wrong with that. And yes, the price can be a bit much, but when you talk to your travel agents like ourselves, pick Jenn, pick me, pick whoever on the team, there are, I don't want to say always, but a lot of times there are room discounts to be had. There are savings to be had. There are, right now, if you stay at the Grand Floridian for the summer, you can get a dining card, like $150 for the room per night.
For about one more week.
For one more week until the 27th. So when you hear this, you got a week. But that dining card's available. So if you booked your trip through like mid-September at the Grand Flo for 5 nights, you're talking like $750, $800 in dining money in your hand. And so that might be like the difference if you're saying, you know what, instead of staying at the moderate like we were going to do, we're going to save $800 on dining. Let's just stay there. happy to help. So, any more thoughts on the Grand Floridian? Any thoughts on anything else?
Victoria and Albert's. Victoria and Albert's is there.
Oh, that's right. We forgot. I was hoping to pass that.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Never been past. I've never been there. See, that's me, Jen. But then again, I have a hard time spending $25 on a pair of pants. And so I'm like, I can get these for $17 at Target. Why do I spend $27 here for a pair of khakis?
We just think very differently about that kind
we
of
really
stuff.
do. And that's okay. That's okay. What do you love about Victoria and Albert's? I mean, what is it? Okay, so tell me about Victoria and Albert's. Somebody who's like, I've heard that name. I know it's fancy.
Yeah,
What is Victoria and Albert's?
Well, as you mentioned, it is a 5-diamond restaurant. This is one of the restaurants. It was not on the dining plan. When there was a dining plan, this was not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
This is one of those. You are going to go. There really aren't prices on the menu. You know what that means. There is a dress code, and I'm talking like you need to wear a tie. You need to wear a jacket and a tie if you are, a gentleman. Women, there is a dress code. Yes, this is. I don't know that they expressly forbid children in there. I can't remember, but I will just say I didn't see any children in there. This would not be an experience that I think smaller children would enjoy, because this is if you are a foodie, you are somebody who wants the extended dining experience. This is it. It is fantabulous. I'm talking, it was like 8 courses. You can do with or without a wine pairing. At the end, the coffee comes out in this crazy, amazing contraption that just like brews it in front of you. David,
I like it.
Love the contraption. It's so cool. But like the portion sizes, because you're having so many courses, each course is a very manageable size to allow you to finish, the courses and make it the whole way through without being like, oh my gosh, if I put another bite in, I'm done. But it is in the top 3 meals of my life, literally, because it was so good. And then like the service is impeccable, and and it's the atmosphere. So it is one of those, we are having a beautiful date night. We are having this is our experience.
This is one of those lifetime experiences of life. Well, I don't say once in a lifetime, but one of those you're not doing.
But you're not doing it every single time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Brady and I we enjoy going out once a month or whatever to do a fancier date night. I mean, whatever, date night is date night, but you can go to date night at Applebee's,
of course.
I'm throwing in Applebee's.
No way you would, but
retreat. But I'm just saying, but you could, this is fancy. We are splurging on this meal because we love food and we enjoy eating. And so
now, okay, so is it fancy like Applebee's on a date night with a bourbon street steak and an Oreo shake with whipped cream? And
my gosh.
I'm just asking. I'm just curious.
It's a little fancier.
Now, final question about Victoria and Albert's though. How full do you get? Because I imagine by course 6, I'd be like, I don't know how much more I can eat. Or is it small enough portions?
It's small enough portions.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I mean, at the end, you're still full. Don't get me wrong. You're not like, I can go out and eat a cheeseburger.
Well, if I'm still paying that price, if I'm still full, I'm still hungry after course 8, I'm like, bring me something. I don't care. That guy's plate, it's not empty. Bring it to me.
There came to one of the courses where I was like, as amazing as this is, if I don't stop eating, I will get full too fast. So I'm only going to eat because it was a pasta course, and pasta can be filling.
Oh yeah, pasta will fill.
So I was like, I'm only going to eat half of this. So even though it wasn't a huge serving, I also knew myself. I'm like, okay, I'll back off. Only have half of this. And it was so
I visited Jaleo briefly with Kyla and her husband Bankles, and that's a multi-course meal as well. I've never been. And
if you do that one, you can order regular, but
and they were doing the experience, and so I kind of joined them. I kind of nibbled here and there, and they were telling me they still had dessert coming and other things coming, and they were like, we're full. We can't eat it. And so they were passing me the food, and I'm like, I'll eat the steak. Sure. Okay. I'll have a bit of this. Sure. Why not? And so it was very, very good. So Victoria and Albert's, it's one of those things where we're happy to help you with that as well. We're not even gonna throw the price out. Doesn't matter. If you got to ask. And so, we're happy to help you with that as well. And that might be something considering, because I've got a 20-year wedding anniversary coming up next year. And we're talking about Disney cruise and, or maybe a possible stay. And that's something I've considered. Like, what if I took Stephanie to that? That's a lot of money, but I got a year to look at it, pay for it. She never listens to the podcast, doesn't matter. So she's not gonna hear this. But she listens to any podcast. It's okay. But yeah, so that's Victoria and Albert's, folks. Yeah. That is your wind down on Victoria and Albert's. Make sure to follow me this week on the Magic on a Dollar. Follow me on Instagram there. Of course, over on Facebook, Magic on a Dollar and Disney on a Dollar. And I'll be posting pictures and videos and all the fun things of all the fun things we're doing as we're hitting all the parks and all the resorts and things like that. And just having a good family. This is actually my vacation. This is not even a work trip. So it's actually my vacation. But Jen, being the slave driver she is, I got to have content. So I'll be consistently posting, Jen, where can we find you?
You can find me at Upon a Star Jen and my personal Instagram at Jen_Novotny. Since I'm not currently traveling, just expect any and all posts to be about my house at this point.
People are following the house. People are wondering about the house. So this is
so
good.
Just so you know, I'll probably keep that more on my personal Instagram, but feel free.
Still.
Once we close on that bad boy, it's gonna be
Victoria and Albert, here we come. So, yep.
So.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of the Main Street Electrical Podcast. That is Jen. I am Dave. And hey, don't forget to thank your Phoenicians.
Thank you for listening to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the MSE Podcast, or visit our website at themsepodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe, and may all your wishes come true.